Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for having me here. It's an amazing conference. I'm excited to talk about something that I think is probably at the heart of what we do as a data scientist or researchers on our day-to-day job, turning ambiguity into impact. We often find ourselves in situations where, questions are asked as clear as they seem, and this presentation is a guide on how we can move from those ambiguous starting point to land something that's tangible and influential for our companies or our work. Mm. But before we dive in, I'd like to have a quick introduction. I'm a quant UX researcher, and for 8 years prior to this, I worked as a data scientist. Despite different job titles, my career has been focused on leveraging data to drive business decisions, which has given me the firsthand experience with the challenges we'll talk about today. Feel free to connect me with linking or check out my Medium articles. Let's start with a scenario that many of us have encountered. Say your business launched a new product and they ask you, what was the impact? It sounds like a simple question, right? But for our team, it was the startup, the complex and challenging project. Our stakeholders needed to know if the product worked so that they can justify for their work and secure more resources. Unspokenly speaking, though, what they really are hoping for was a large, impressive number that would support their performance roadshow. They needed a metric that would prove the product's value and justify for future investment. Our job as a data professionals was to bridge the gap between what they wanted to hear and what the data could truthfully say. I have to admit, this is a journey. The journey from ambiguity to impact isn't a single step. It's also a process. It's not always linear. I'll break it down into three phases. And phase number one, align on what matters, where we started from the business thought the sum of the impact was the same as incremental impact. I'll give you a visualization to help. This graph shows the impact at day N for a group of customers after the launch. This metrics measure all activities happened after launch. And as you probably know, attributing to this entire sum to a single launch would be a critical error. This seems to be obvious. So where is the conflicts? The organization stated the goal to measure incremental impact, but our stakeholders wants to report a total metrics as if it were incremental. This is where the friction was. And the friction is a mix of politics, design somehow wanted to align with how other teams from outside of our organization report their numbers, and the pure knowledge gap. Believe it or not, they do have a lack of understanding of what is the difference and why it matters. We have to approach these questions from both angles. First, we managed the politics with a simple principles. We give options and stay firm on what they can do with the options. They could either keep their organizational goal statement as is, but we will report incremental impact, or they could report some of the metrics as they wish, but they have to change the goal statement and the target to reflect that. The point is, they can only choose one of the two options, but not to mix them up. We made it really clear that we couldn't proceed unless one was chosen. Next, we addressed the knowledge gap by showing the risk. We show the stakeholders the risk for using the wrong metrics. For example, from this real example, this one shows a downward trending line, which indicates the new product is harming the business, and it is probably not wanted by the stakeholders. But if using the incremental metrics, you can actually show the true impact, which is positive. Visuals and stories like this are very convincing. The result of our efforts was a critical win for phase one. The business aligned to report the incremental impact. Now we're on to the second stage, when we need to build a solid foundation by tackling the technical challenges to measure the true impact. We have actually come across many technical challenges. One of them I want to share today is that our control and treatment are not always comparable. This is some of the case this is what we wanted to see, where it's apple to apple comparison, which is really good. In some other case where we see a control group has a higher value before the experiment start, which is not good, or a smaller value before the experiment start. So what did we do? We used a techniques called QBIT, which stands for Controlled Experiment Using Pre-Experiment Data. Let me break it down with a simple example. Say after experiment, the control landed at $120 and treatment is at $80. Just by the first glance, without any further evaluation, you may think the control group did better than the treatment group, so we just kill the launch. However, because you have done your due diligence to look at their pre-experiment value, it appears that the control group was already higher before the experiment. So the post-experiment difference is not from a fair comparison. And this is where the qubit comes in. It uses the pre-experiment data to adjust a group's post-experiment data. Qubit is essentially a linear regression of pre-existing value predicting the post-experiment value. For anything that's above or below the population norm, it will pull it down or nudge it up to be at the same level. In our dummy example, per the qubit regression formula, it may translate your 120 pre-experiment value to be a $25 head start, and then it corrects for it by subtracting the $25 from their final number, which now become $95. The same calculation goes for the treatment too. The treatment start handicap at $50 before experiment and landed at $80 after experiment. Qubit may calculate that it had a $25 handicap and then corrects it by adding the handicap to their final numbers. After the adjustment, a very different story for the treatment will become 105. And as you can see, after the adjustment, a very different story emerged by removing the noises caused by the pre-existing differences between the groups. The treatment is actually having a better result than control, which probably is going to lead a very different decision-making path. So if you want to know more about causal inference or some hands-on examples using Python code to apply the qubit, you can visit my Medium page or check out this awesome book, Effect. This is one of my favorite. Okay, so after building a strong technical foundations, we move to the final phase, deliver and influence. This is where we tackle the human challenge to land the impact. Going back to my story, after I shared the result of incremental metrics, once again, I hit a wall. We were asked to meet 5 times a week. During the meeting, the stakeholder said, I love it. But then after the meeting, he said, I disagree. We heard open question keeps coming back, but no decision made. And as we discovered, the stakeholders are meeting with leadership to talk about it, with none of us invited. Let's diagnose this again. So what's going on? This time, besides a stronger politics, a bigger knowledge gap, there's one thing new, the implementation nuance. The causal inference can be perfect, but at the end of the day, stakeholders probably just care one thing. How does your math fit in for my business? This is a valid question because even for the same causal inference framework, the real implementation can vary very differently based on if you're a B2B business or B2C business or whatever business types you are. But before answering that question, we had to build the trust layer by layer. First, we managed the politics with the new techniques, united for team power. Even though it is probably an obvious thing, but from what I have seen, this is also the easiest thing to ignore for many reasons. In my case, I united several teams to support the work. They play different roles to support it, but the point is that we voice the same. This collectively makes it harder for stakeholders to push back on causal inference and give the work the weight and authority to move forward. Then we address the knowledge gap, this time with a new strategy, use simple language. Imagine a stakeholder asks you, so how did you calculate the incremental impact? You could give them a very technical, jargon-filled answer, which I marked the words that can confuse people in red, or we can do something on the right. My observation is that any sentence you put out there that has like more than 2 red words can add longer distance between you and your stakeholders, depends on who they are, in an exponentially order. This can be a very exaggerating examples. On the left-hand side, I didn't do that on the left-hand side at all, but we probably won't go as far as what's on the left neither. My point is that you may want to have as fewer red words as possible. Surprisingly, not surprisingly, more detail will destroy the patience and trust and do you opposite. After the 2 layers are built, we are ready to embrace detailed discussion and co-build the implementation. And this is actually my favorite part because I don't know what's going on, but there's just something about getting everyone in a room together, isn't it? We have a global team, but for this project, we knew we needed that uninterrupted in-person vibe. So we held a half-day whiteboarding session, and it was magic. The discussion was focused, the communication was leveled up, and everyone just more polite. The whole atmosphere was just more friendly. You could see it at the end of the day when we took a picture. Everyone was standing in front of the whiteboarding and was grinning from year to year. Besides that, another secret that I had was changing my role from the drivers to the passenger. I answered their questions, I set up the guardrails, but I gave them the pen. I let them draw the details when they drew the solution. It becomes their baby, and the ownership is what truly makes it work. So what was the impact? Our implementation was green-lighted. The metrics will set up the organizational goal for the next year. More initiative will be switched to incremental metrics, and more quant work are designed to prioritize business strategy. So if there's anything I would love for you to walk away from this is a simple guide to share with you all. First, measure the true impact. By building your organizational causal inference muscle and measuring incrementality, you will see that knowing the true impact leads to the true change that truly matters to user. Secondly, bridge the gap, especially for the knowledge one. If you didn't explain it in a elementary math, you probably haven't done it right yet. Even your audience doesn't ask questions, it's our job to make sure they do understand. Finally, untangle the human knot. Most importantly, be able to identify it. So how? Where there is a weird feeling, there is a human knot. After knowing it is the knot, face it, focus on doing the right things. That's it for me for today. Any questions?
Yeah, a lot of people liked your talk. There have been a lot of snarky comments, but not directed at you, directed at most of us. Most of us have been in these situations. Let's just say that we have all had snarky comments about seeing things.
Glad
um,
I have the chance to share my experience. I think this is pretty unique and classic. Maybe that's
but
the why that's why it's picked.
oh yeah. We were all cracking jokes like get everyone in the room and like things go smoother and I chimed in. So what, no VP that drops a bomb through an email going like, I think we should do right. Yeah, yeah, we are rolling our eyes with you, not at you. Totally what we were doing. um Oh, one thing I had was their Cupid method. So my comment was like, oh, it's great for doing things. It's great for like salvaging like causality and lift and all that out of what could be a very sad looking result initially. The thing that I worry about, or how do you deal with this, is that I show, I do these analysis and it's like, oh, I managed to save a project's reputation by doing this, right? Everyone's happy, great. The next time the PM comes over and goes, "Hey, my project just bombed. Can the stats don't look good? Can you do the thing that you did last time? Can you save my butt again?" Well, what's your reaction there? Like,
I think that, I want to take it from a very positive side, which means that their mind mentality is probably shift, by seeing more advanced, seeing what statistics, seeing what models can do to them. But there's like a level setting expectations too. Like we can do what needs to be done, but that doesn't like guarantee a positive result. I think the most focus should be around like how do we build the right product, how do we listen to the right voices from the users, and then what left for me to do in this practice is to make sure that the math is right, we meet the high like assumptions or like hypothesis. Again, I mean, I just always find like measurement is can be very tricky and blow out of proportion. I think level setting expectation ahead of time is very important. It's probably most critical steps.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's like whether you should be doing something and whether you can manage to measure it and prove it are separate questions, and sometimes you have to treat them differently.
And
Uh,
also, I do want to add like a little trick following on that for any kind of negative or unexpected result. Like be ready to, to have like hard pushback because just have empathy on them because this their baby they would have not launched it if they don't have any high hope for it. So seeing a low number will cause some kind of reaction to it. So totally understanding on that.
mhm,
But instead of giving them what they asking, maybe thinking from their perspective, like what they really want is a way out in terms of, hey, if there's a no, low number, like what can they do as a next step to make it better? And
mhm,
that's where also, again, additional like resources or additional magic we can kind of play around a little bit using data or using researchers to, to help them like almost like a step forward. So, like different techniques, but, I think you get the point.
definitely. Well, yeah, there are sometimes I think I phrase it as like, yes, the thing you launched completely failed. Let's be honest, it did not do the thing it would, or it may even have hurt the metrics that we wanted. But hey, we found out about this now instead of later. You can stop investing in this now instead of later. Now
Could
you
have
can
been
move
worse. Yeah,
on.
totally.
Right. So yeah, and sometimes that is like it's better to know now instead of the sunk cost fallacy, which they are product people can are very, very prone to, is like I've invested in this and I'm going to keep throwing money at the pit because right. uh a lot of people are also reacting to attribution is I think most of us have had bad experiences doing attribution because of how hard it is. Right? It can work. There are times when it works, but there are a lot of times when it's like, no, it's not possible. And you that's just how it is. especially because we're UX researchers. So it's like, how do you attributing our contribution to anything is hard, to say the least.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, what do you mean?
yeah. So yeah, consultants also discussing what goes wrong. Yep, this is what we do. At the end of the day, this is what we do. It's like we provide value by helping the people navigate this stuff. Um, Libby said, I can't tell you for sure that this thing contributed to those people not churning, but I also can't tell you for sure that it did not. It is merely the null hypothesis, which could mean all
Yeah.
sorts of things.
Well, that goes back to the juggle words type, I see people saying that, I immediately, like, the reaction from the other side was like,
Yep, it's just I merely failed to prove that you changed the world. It doesn't mean that you didn't change the world. And
I
then I'm
immediately
hacking
have
my
like a face in
laptop
my,
and
like a reactions in my mind on some of my stakeholders, how they're gonna look at me if I talk to them in that way.
Mhm,
But
mhm,
it's
mhm,
really
mhm.
fun for me to just, I mean, at the end of the day, I was having fun doing all these techniques and, building more of my causal inference muscle.
Uh,
Um, it's just work at
yeah,
the
yeah.
other
At some
side.
point, you're like, I've had things that were like, yeah, you have 100 customers. You don't need to be talking to me. Just go talk to the customers to get the data you need and the insight you need. It is faster to go that way. So, all right, we are at time. Thank you so much for talking.
Thank you,
Next,
everyone.
yeah. All right, the next person.
I stop
Go
sharing.
ahead.